Hey folks, Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalists, and in this case the topic is watches. This has been requested in my Spanish channel, by the way. It's SupervivienciaModerna. The link is going to be somewhere there below if you want to follow me in my Spanish channel, maybe practice a little bit of the language. Links also below for the watches, at least the ones that I do find, and links also for my books, Street Survival Skills and the Modern Survival Manual. By the way guys, those of you that have left reviews, hugely appreciated. Now in Street Survival Skills I talk about the importance of EDC, and part of your EDC should definitely be a watch. That I guess goes without saying. There's still a lot of people that don't think that you should have a watch. They just think that I have my cell phone, so I have a watch there. Man, your cell phone is not a watch. And is it important to have a watch for survival? Is it important to have a watch for preparedness? Well, ask any military guy, ask any cop if it's important or not to have a watch. Yes, it is, so as to know what schedule you're moving in, what time it is, so as to know what's happening in terms of flights, buses to catch, anything you're coordinating with anyone. You need a watch, and if you just rely on your cell phone, it may run out of battery, it just may break, you may lose it, or it may not be as convenient as to check the time. Anyone that has any kind of responsibility knows how important it is to be on time for stuff. Sometimes even your life may depend on being in time for certain things. So this is why a watch for any military guy, any law enforcement officer, they will know that you want to have a watch. And in fact, usually the watch those guys go with is something like this. This is a fairly popular model among law enforcement and military, the G-Shock. Especially this one. Well, this is a modern vintage version of one of the original G-Shocks. The original G-Shock was more of a square case. This is a bit of more of the this would be one of the more classic military or tactical looking type of G-Shocks. Now, it's very interesting, the story of the G-Shock, how they designed a case that was shock resistant, isolated from vibrations from the inside. That is like the patented creation of the G-Shock. So anytime you see a watch that says G-Shock, it is really created so as to be rugged and tolerant of a lot of abuse. Now, having said that, lots of Casio, some of the cheaper ones, they take beating and just keep on going, man. I had some Casios that were not G-Shock that I beating the crap out of it, and they still go strong. In fact, my son has this one. This is one of my one of the watches my son has, and it's just a classic Casio. I don't remember the model. I leave the link below. WS220, I guess it is. Anyway, this is solar, which is another point I want to talk about, but this has been through salt water, swimming, surfing, playing football, soccer, rugby, in the sand, mud. This has been through everything, and it just keeps on working. Look at how, it has a bit of glue there, and the band there is just done, so it has a bit of string keeping this in place, but it is still working, and it's actually, the dial is actually quite large, so it's very well suited for any guy that needs to just keep track of time. You have the chronometer, alarms, all that stuff as well, and it is solar. That's a big plus. So, number one, you want something that it's just reliable, that just gets the job done and it takes a beating. Even with those, you can get away with that. G-Shock is specifically designed for that. One of the other things I want to have, and you notice the theme here is durability in terms of the wristband as well. In my experience, they do rot eventually, and they snap, they crack, and they break. I've lost a couple at least of watches that way, so I'm a believer in having metal. Of course, when it comes to metal, some metals are nicer than others. These three are titanium, and titanium just looks nicer as you wear them out, as you start using them a lot. They just keep on working nice. But first of all, the thing has to be dead reliable. It just has to work for you. If I have the metal band, that is a big plus. Another huge plus for me, maybe even more so than the metal band, is solar. So that's why I have this one, and this one. These are all solar watches. That means you're not worrying about battery. In fact, none of these require frequent change of battery because these are solar, these are automatic watches, and we'll get to that in a second. But the solar aspect, that's crucial. I mean, there's lots of these smart watches. I just don't go for that. It just doesn't seem something reliable. If I have to charge it once a week or even more than that, it just doesn't make sense for me, because I know that when I need it the most, the thing is going to be dying. That's just the way it is, especially with something that needs that frequency in terms of being charged. With this one, though, the battery for this one should last several years. In fact, some of these more basic models, this one says, and it says there, 10-year battery. So the battery will last 10 years. Again, this one is also nice. That's a pretty decently sized display. So in terms of material, titanium, steel, when you can, solar, and if I can have other functions, that's even better. For example, the watch I use the most, I wear the most, is this one. This is a Casio Tough Solar Pro Trek. I'm not so sure if Tough Solar means that they are using the G-Shock technology. I don't think it is, because this is a solar G-Shock and it actually says G-Shock, so I'm not sure. I don't think it's the same technology, but these are tough as nails. I've beaten the crap out of this watch. I mean, I haven't done anything stupid in terms of, you know, unreasonable abuse, but I've taken this to more classes than I could possibly remember. Shooting, defensive fighting, anything that you could possibly think of, I've taken this. I've taken saltwater swimming, also no problem. Of course, trekking, backpacking, all of that stuff, that's nothing for a watch like this. And I've scrapped it more times than I could possibly remember. In fact, you see that the very natural and organic wear that it has in the metal bezel here. This is just, you know, against walls or whatever, accident happens little by little, just starts accumulating. But in terms of the titanium, nothing. It's just looking perfect. And the polymer case, or resin or whatever it is they use, it just keeps on looking great no matter what. But in this case, not only do I have a tough watch, not only do I have a titanium watch, solar watch, I also have a bunch of functions that I just like having. And this for me is why this is my favorite watch. It has a compass, which is a big advantage, having a compass in your watch. You just press that and there it goes. Activates the compass, and it's rotating along with you. It's not one of those. I used to have an older Casio that had this, but it didn't move. Once you press that button, it just told you where north was, but when you moved it, it just didn't keep on pointing. Here it does, which, yeah, that's definitely nice. You also have a barometer, altimeter. The altimeter is not all that accurate, but it's accurate enough, especially if you know how to set it up and then you know how it works. It's using the altimeter. I mean, the altimeter uses a barometric pressure, so the barometer is very accurate. That's not an issue. The altimeter, though, some people get disappointed because they don't understand that it uses the barometric pressure changes so as to detect the change of altitude. That's simply the nature of the beast. If you know where you're are in terms of your house and you set that altitude every once in a while, especially when it goes out of sync, you can just set it again. One of the nice things about this one in particular is I also have the tide graphic, so if you're near water, which I am, you want to have this. It is useful. Moon phase and the barometric pressure charge there too. That is giving you the an idea of how the barometric pressure is changing. So for example, if it's dropping very fast, means you're going to be having a storm, bad weather. If you see it going up very fast, it means that weather is going to be improving a lot, very fast as well. So if I see it drop very fast, I know that there's a storm likely, and it usually is in the horizon. You see the dark clouds, and if it's raining and you see it going up, man, that's a good indicator it's going to be ending soon. That's more useful than I ever thought it would be once I got the hang of it and understood how it works. So yeah, this is the one that I like the most. I'll leave the link for this one, guys. If you're looking for, at least in my opinion, the best prepper watch that's still looking cool enough. It looks big. It's super lightweight, man. It is super comfortable to wear. It is more comfortable than this one, so don't doubt it. If you just see it a little bit bulky, titanium weighs nothing. This is the one I got for my son when he got accepted into college, to university. So it's a Citizen Eco Drive titanium as well, a sapphire display glass there. I think it has chronometer, a couple things. This is the one I got myself many years back. This is one of the original Eco Drive runs. The battery is not holding battery charge anymore, but man, it lasted for decades. This is a great little watch. I still like it. Probably changing the battery, if they replace the rechargeable battery, it should work again, because once it takes a bit of charge, it starts running again. But well, this is the one that I got for my son. let me know what you think in the comments there below. Isn't this a beautiful watch? I just love that way, especially for a young man starting life and such, having a decent watch. But also, it's classy looking. It is tough. You don't have to worry about the battery. The lumen is also very decent. Look at how, once it has a bit of sunlight, how that is fairly bright. You see that there. Yeah, I think it's nice. So that's the way. I think it's a good way to go. This is a G-Shock this is maybe the first G-Shock I think that I ever bought, and it has a bit of a darker display, even though it's more visible than it seems. Maybe with a camera it's not as obvious, but again, metal G-Shock. This is an atomic watch, so it has the atomic from the radio signal it receives in the northern hemisphere, and it's just keeping the time very accurately with that update that I guess it receives every single night. It gets updated, so you just don't lose time. It's super accurate, even down to the second. And finally, these that are automatic watches. Automatic watch means that it's not having any internal electronics. It's not digital. It's purely, this is a digital watch with a analog display, same as this one, but internally it is a digital watch. This is an analog watch entirely. There's no battery here. This is all just metal. It's all just like springs and coils and all that stuff. And it has a bit of a weight. When you move it to the side, you feel it moving, and that coil starts charging up, and that's going to be running the watch for about a day and a half. After that, the watch just stops running. So if you're using it every single day, it's the same thing for Rolex and a bunch of other automatic watches. The mechanism is pretty much the same way it works. If you're not using it anymore, then the watch stops working. Now, the big negative aspect for me was that it just, even when you use it every day, it's not nearly as accurate. No automatic watch is nearly as accurate as the cheapest digital watch. Even with your, yes, a lot of people get offended by that, but even with your Rolex, eventually, and by eventually I mean seconds every day, and it could be just a few seconds, it could be more or less, but it's just not accurate. And as days go by, that inaccuracy starts accumulating. Now, it gets to a point where if you know your watch, which you should if you're using it daily, you kind of adjust to that. So let's suppose it loses a couple minutes a week or whatever it is, and you adjust that once a week and you stay somewhat in time. But even with that, it's just not nearly as accurate as one of these things. There's simply no way it could. But the advantage, especially with something like this is a Seiko Monster. This is the black Monster, and this is the Seiko orange Monster. Why two? Well, because I just think these are beautiful watches. This is the first run, the first gen of Monster series. These are beautiful watches, and when they first got out, some of the people that like more classic looking watches, they were, that looks horrible, what such a corny looking watch or whatever. It seemed like too much. But people loved it. I loved it, and that's why I got two. I got two because I think it's going to be a bit of a classic, a bit of a collector's watch, which at this point it kind of is, especially with the first run versions. So yeah, one for summer, one for winter, and I love both. I think both are great watches. These are very durable. These are actual divers watches, which is the original intent, the way in which it was originally intended to be used. And check that lumen, how bright that thing is. With just a little bit of sunlight, it looks like a nuclear reactor. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think it's beautiful. I really dig this kind of watch. So, the same thing, super tough watch, intended for a diver, a 200-meter, all stainless steel. Yes, it is heavy, but it's worth it, man. It's just a beast of a watch. The crystal is proprietary from Seiko. It's very tough. Same as the lumen. There's no brighter lumen, as far as I know, than the one Seiko uses, and they put a lot of it here, which works rather nicely. And yes, in my experience using these actually for quite some time, I noticed that if I'm going indoors, movies, whatever, even after a while, you just still have that lumen being reasonably bright so as to know what time it is. And maybe the final touch in terms of a prepper survivalist, this is the kind of thing that guys worrying about EMPs, solar flare, any kind of electromagnetic pulse that would kill any other watch, any other digital watch. I mean, this puppy will still keep on running because there's nothing electric or digital about it. It's just all metal and coils and stuff like that. So yeah, and these are good. If I don't find these ones, I'll leave the links for the newer generations of Seiko Monster. But yeah, it is a quite nice watch. And for a prepper, it is tough. It's not going to be as accurate, but it is tough. You can also go with something more of a classic watch. There's also a nice vintage looking G-Shock that is very similar to the original one, but with solar and atomic timekeeping. These ones, the data bank, these are also fairly good. You have a calculator, you have the data bank for important phone numbers and stuff like that. That's also nice. Anyway, guys, that's all for now. I'll leave the links of whatever it is that I find. Have a great day. See you in our next video. Take care.